CNN Breaking News.
Welcome back to Early Start. We have major breaking news to tell you about. Pope Benedict XVI is resigning, and we are just getting in a statement that he made to his cardinals this morning at the Vatican. It says, after having repeatedly examined my conscience before God, I have come to the certainty that my strengths, due to an advanced age, are no longer suited to an adequate exercise of the Petrine ministry. His last day will be February 28th. And there have been reports of his fatigue and possible declining health. This is over the past year. He is 85 years old. He will be 86 in April. The last pope to resign was in 1415. That was 600 years ago.
There is such a long time ago, obviously, and so many questions right now. I believe we have someone on the phone, Raymond Arroyo, who is with the Eternal Word television network covering faith and religion in this country right now. Mr. Arroyo, can you tell us what you think the significance of this announcement is? It really comes as a shock to us this morning.
Oh, well, look, it's shocking to me, and I not only have covered this Pope his entire pontificate, but when he was at the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, the previous office he held as Cardinal Ratzinger. In fact, I had the only English interview conducted with this Pope at length, shortly before his election. And it's curious as I watch this unfold, because at that time, Cardinal Ratzinger repeatedly wanted to retire in 1990, in 93, again in 96, up until 1999. And he declined each time. He stopped himself and didn't retire because of the example of the previous Pope, he told me in an interview. So to watch this is really, I have to say, I'm taken aback by it, both as a journalist and personally, and knowing that background, and also knowing his vision of wanting to reform the church and realizing and being side by side with John Paul during his very long, as you remember, convalescence. I mean, this was a pope who died before the world, taught the world how to die. So this comes as a real shock to so many, not only Catholics around the world, I think, people of other faiths as well. So we'll see what happens here. I know in moments we're expecting the press conference. That will certainly give us more light, but no one was anticipating this. I spoke to a cardinal this morning in Rome. They had no early word of this until just today.
You just mentioned something really,
and no one thought he was particularly feeble or in any terrible health. But obviously he was getting older. He was nowhere near the point that John Paul was at this point of debilitation.
We have a statement from the Pope, and he says that his health has deteriorated to the extent that I have to recognize my incapacity to adequately fulfill the ministry entrusted to me. And you just made a really important point, and that is that we did see Pope John Paul die. He died slowly before all of us, and so this monumental decision that he's making, you spent some time with him. Do we think that there's more to this declining health?
Well, there could be. Now, I don't think it's any secret. Pope Benedict has been, and has always been, even as Cardinal Ratzinger, very precious about his health. He's had a few health crises now and then. And he's bounced back pretty quickly from all of them. But he's very attentive to his health and to preserving his strength, which is why he did not maintain the public schedule that John Paul did, for instance. There was the one public audience a week. Other than that, he really, did his administrative work, played his piano, prayed in the garden. He had a very routine schedule that he abided by, which is why I find this, additionally shocking, because I know there was an intention to preserve his strength so that he could continue this office. The interesting thing you reminded me of as I listened to you read that statement, John Paul said at the time when they asked him, you should resign, even some cardinals, you'll remember, were calling for his resignation. And he said, a father does not leave the family. So it'll be interesting to see how Pope Benedict explains this to the flock at large. But obviously, one has to say this is, I'm sure, a decision not made lightly. My sense is the health crisis must be pretty serious if he is going to this drastic measure of resigning. And it's certainly going to be a dramatic event and moment that we'll all be privy to and be able to watch unfold.
And also the Catholic Church, still,
years later, it feels like we just did this.
No doubt. And the Catholic Church still remaining in crisis, declining membership, the sex abuse scandal that is ongoing. It's really an interesting time to step down.
Well, I would say this. I think Benedict has made, even during this reign that is a lot longer, we have to say, than many of the cardinals who elected him thought. Okay, that should be said at the outset. He has actually implemented an enormous number of reforms, including a reform of the Mass that brought back some of the old liturgical practices that I think will continue deep into the next, century, if not beyond. So I think you do see vocations up. There are bright lights. I mean, certainly the sex abuse scandal continues and the terrible revelations of that. But much of that is in the past decades. And if you look forward, you are seeing seminaries full again. You have bishops who are taking their responsibility and the full weight of their office seriously. And Benedict has been a big part of that, what he called the reform of the liturgy as well as the church at large.
Raymond, we're looking at live pictures right now of Vatican City, St. Peter's Basilica right now. We are expecting a news conference from the Vatican not too long from now. We, of course, will bring you whatever we can from there as soon as we get it. But, Raymond, let me ask you this. You said that Pope John Paul II had said a father never leaves his flock. One of the truly fascinating things about this move, Pope Benedict XVI stepping down February 28th, is that there will be a living former pope, which is something no one alive has ever seen, hasn't really happened in 600 years, 800 years, depending on how you count. It's a really staggering historical reality.
Absolutely. And the other amazing part of this is, just as we move ahead, and I hate to even do that, but inevitably this is going to be a conclave we'll be facing. Pope Benedict will have an enormous influence, no doubt, on who his successor will be. And I can't imagine at this point that isn't part of the thinking here. That while he has his faculties and the ability to influence the future of the church, he wants to see that reform of the reform continue. Reform started by Pope John Paul II, what he called a new springtime of the church that would bring about a new evangelization where people would become more vibrant in their faith, more committed to it, and take it out into the world. And I think you're going to see some of that drama play out. We won't see much of it, but we will certainly see the effects of Benedict's presence in that conclave. I mean,